I deserved more. That's what I told myself every night as Michael's side of our California king remained empty. His office light visible through the bedroom window at midnight, then 1, then 2 in the morning. Rachel Collins, 34 years, old, married to the most successful junior partner at Whitman & Associates, living in a 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester that we'd bought after his first big case win. From the outside, we had everything. From the inside, I was disappearing. I still remember our wedding day with painful clarity, how Michael's eyes never left mine during the ceremony, how he whispered, "You're my whole world," as we danced to our song. The Caribbean honeymoon, where we made love on the balcony overlooking the ocean, where he traced patterns on my skin and promised we'd return every anniversary. We managed 3 anniversaries before work became his mistress. By year 7, I'd become furniture. Beautiful, expensive furniture that he'd walk past without seeing. I'd dress carefully for firm events. The black Versace that used to make him cancel dinner plans, the diamond earrings he'd given me for our 5th anniversary, and watch him network for hours without once seeking me out. I'd stand by the bar nursing champagne, invisible. Then Derek noticed me. "That dress is criminally underappreciated," he'd said at the firm's Christmas party, appearing beside me as Michael held court with senior partners across the room. Derek Morrison, in-house counsel for one of the firm's biggest clients, with silver threading through his temples and eyes that actually saw me. "As is the woman wearing it," he added with a meaningful look. I should have walked away. Instead, I laughed. A real laugh, not the polite titter I'd perfected for these events. "My husband would disagree," I replied, "if he noticed at all." Derek's gaze found Michael across the room. "Then your husband is either blind or stupid," he said, quietly. "Possibly both." The compliment warmed me more than the champagne. When Derek asked about my work, I'd given up my marketing career to support Michael's ambitions. He listened to my answers. When he asked about my interests, my opinions, my thoughts on the legal battles he was fighting, he made me feel brilliant, seen, vital. Our first lunch was innocent. Derek needed marketing advice for a non-profit board he served on. Our second lunch was less innocent. 2 hours at a bistro where he made me laugh until my sides hurt, where his hand brushed mine reaching for the check. By our third lunch, I was lying to Michael about where I was going, though he barely looked up from his laptop when I said I was meeting my sister. The first kiss happened in Derek's car after our 5th lunch. I'd been crying. Michael had forgotten our anniversary dinner, texting at 10 p.m. that he'd grab something at the office. Derek held me while I sobbed, then lifted my chin, and suddenly his mouth was on mine, and I was drowning in being wanted. The hotel meeting started 2 weeks later. The Marriott downtown, always room 412, always Tuesday and Thursday afternoons when Derek's wife Sharon thought he was at client meetings, and Michael thought I was at yoga. I told myself it wasn't really betrayal. Michael had abandoned our marriage. First, I was just taking what I needed to survive. I became an expert at deception. Separate credit card for lunches and lingerie, passcode on my phone, perfume samples in my purse to mask Derek's cologne. Tuesdays and Thursdays became the highlight of my week, the only times I felt alive. Derek made me feel 25 again. Desired, fascinating. 3 months in, I was addicted. To the secret texts that made me smile during lonely dinners, to the way Derek's face lit up when I walked into room 412, to the thrill of my double life. I'd perfected my cover story, my alibis, my ability to slip between worlds. Michael suspected nothing because Michael noticed nothing. He was too buried in depositions and briefs to see that his wife had become someone else entirely. I thought I was so clever, so careful. I was so completely, catastrophically wrong. Michael hadn't smiled at me like that in 2 years. Real excitement animated his face as he set the envelope on the breakfast table, practically bouncing on his heels like the man I'd married. "What's this?" I asked, setting down my coffee. It was Saturday morning, the one day Michael usually slept in, but he'd been up before me, showered and dressed. "Open it," he said, his grin widening. Inside were 2 tickets for a 5-day Caribbean cruise. First-class cabin departing in 3 days, the same cruise line we'd taken for our honeymoon. Michael. I stared at the tickets, my throat tight, with an emotion I couldn't name. Guilt? Hope? When did you... "I know I've been absent," he said, sitting beside me and taking my hand. When had he last held my hand? "Work has consumed me, but I want to fix this. Fix us. 5 days, no phones, no work, just you and me. Like the beginning." My eyes burned with tears. This was what I'd wanted, what I'd been begging for silently for years. "But the Patterson case..." I started to protest. "Jerry's covering it," he interrupted. "I've already arranged everything. I love you, Rachel. I know I haven't shown it lately, but I do. Let me prove it." The next 3 days passed in a blur of shopping and preparation. I bought new dresses, new lingerie, got my hair colored and styled. I agonized over telling Derek, but finally sent a vague text about a family emergency. He was irritated, but understood. We'd have time when I returned. At the port, Michael kissed me goodbye with strange intensity. "Enjoy yourself," he said against my mouth. "Really enjoy yourself? You deserve this." "Aren't you coming aboard to see the cabin?" I asked, but he was already stepping back. "Traffic was horrible. I need to get back for one last meeting," he explained. "But I'll text you. Have fun, baby." The kiss lingered on my lips as I boarded, pulling my suitcase through the opulent corridors. The cabin was perfect. Balcony overlooking the ocean, champagne chilling in a bucket, rose petals scattered on the king bed. I kicked off my heels, poured a glass, and stepped onto the balcony to watch the port disappear. The knock came as I was unpacking. Room service, I assumed, maybe chocolates or another romantic surprise from Michael. I opened the door with a smile. That froze on my face. Derek stood in the hallway with a suitcase. "Rachel," he said, his face going white. "What are you doing here?" "What am I?" "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "This is my cabin. My husband." The words died as Derek held up a key card, the same number as mine, 412. "That's impossible," I said, grabbing his card and comparing it to mine. Identical. "There must be a mistake." "Sharon surprised me with this cruise," Derek said slowly, stepping inside and closing the door. "Said she won it in a charity auction? First-class cabin? 5 days?" We stared at each other as understanding crashed over us in a horrible wave. "No," I said, sinking onto the bed. "No, no, no. This is a coincidence, a mix-up." Derek was already at his phone, but there was no signal at sea. He threw it on the nightstand. "Sharon doesn't bid on charity auctions," he said grimly. "She hates cruises." "Michael hasn't taken a vacation in 3 years," I replied, my voice sounding hollow. "He kissed me goodbye. He said I deserved this." "Goodbye," Derek repeated, his face going gray. "Not see you later. Goodbye." I fumbled for my phone, managed to connect to the ship's Wi-Fi. A string of notifications flooded in. My bank app. "Your checking account has been closed." Credit cards. "This account has been terminated." An email from Michael's lawyer, with the subject line, "Dissolution of marriage, initial filing." "Oh, God," I whispered, unable to breathe. "Oh, God, Derek." He was staring at his own phone, his face twisted with rage. "My accounts are frozen," he said. "Sharon cleared out our joint savings yesterday. 20 years of marriage and she..." He hurled the phone against the wall. We sat in terrible silence as the ship moved further from shore, from our lives, from any chance of fixing this. They knew. They'd known everything, and they'd planned this together. Room 412, I whispered. How did they know about room 412? Derek's laugh was bitter. Does it matter? He asked. We're trapped on this floating prison for 5 days while they dismantle our lives. I thought about Michael's smile, his excitement. Not the smile of a man saving his marriage, but the smile of a man who'd already won. He'd played me perfectly, letting me think I was so clever while he gathered evidence, made plans, set his trap, and I'd walked right into it, dragging Derek with me. The first night, we tried to maintain the fiction that we were still us, the passionate lovers who met in hotel rooms and whispered promises neither intended to keep. Derek opened the champagne, we ordered room service, we made love on those scattered rose petals like we were proving something. But his touch felt different without the thrill of secrecy, and afterwards we lay apart, the sound of the ocean mocking us through the open balcony door. By the second day, the reality had set in. Derek spent hours on the ship's computers, trying to access his accounts, calling his office, attempting damage control. Each effort failed. His partners wouldn't take his calls. His assistant claimed not to know him. His brother said Sharon had already filed papers and changed the locks. 20 years, he kept muttering, pacing our cabin. I couldn't stop thinking of it as ours, this floating cell we shared. 20 years of building that practice, and she's claiming abandonment. Abandonment! I'm on a damn boat! At least you still have your practice, I snapped. Michael liquidated everything that was jointly held. The house is already sold. Did you know you can sell a house in 72 hours if both parties agree? Because I didn't. Derek turned on me then, his face ugly with rage. This is your fault, he accused. You pursued me. Those lunches, the way you'd touch my arm, lean in close. I pursued you? I laughed, high and hysterical. You approached me. You said I was underappreciated. Because you were standing there looking desperate for attention in that dress. Practically begging, he shot back. Get out, I said, pointing at the door. Find somewhere else to sleep. Where exactly should I go, Rachel? He asked, his smile cruel. This is my cabin, too. Our cabin. The one they booked for us special. Room 412. Our favorite number. I realized then that I didn't actually know Derek at all. The man I'd constructed in my mind, sophisticated, caring, my salvation from a lonely marriage, was a fiction. This Derek, the real one, was petty and selfish and blamed everyone but himself when things went wrong. How had I not seen it? How had I thrown away my marriage for this stranger? The third day, I tried calling anyone who might help. My sister went straight to voicemail. Later, I'd learned Michael had sent her screenshots of my texts with Derek, the explicit ones where I'd described what we did in that room. My mother answered, but only to say she was too disgusted to speak to me. My best friend Caroline listened for 30 seconds before saying, "You made your bed, Rachel," literally. Derek fared no better. His children wouldn't answer. His wealthy clients were unavailable. Even the colleague he'd covered for during a messy divorce sent him a 2-word text. Karma's real. We were pariahs, and we were trapped together in paradise. Other couples walked by our cabin holding hands, laughing, celebrating anniversaries and honeymoons while we plotted revenge we couldn't execute and made plans we couldn't fulfill. When we get back, Derek said on day 4, we'll sue them. Conspiracy, theft, emotional distress. With what money? I interrupted, drinking directly from a vodka bottle I'd charged to the room. Let them deal with the bill. And which lawyer is going to take our case? Please help us. Our spouses caught us cheating and were mean about it. There are laws. He started to argue. Michael is a lawyer, I cut him off. Sharon hired the best firm in the city, with your money, by the way. We're destroyed, Derek. Completely, thoroughly destroyed. That night I found myself thinking about Michael's behavior over the past month. How he'd started coming home earlier, asking about my day. I'd thought he was distracted, maybe suspicious. Now I understood he'd been studying me, watching me lie, gathering evidence. Every kiss goodbye had been documentation. Every I love you had been a test I'd failed. He'd probably read every text, seen every credit card charge, maybe even had us followed to the hotel. The thought made me sick. Not because he'd violated my privacy, but because I'd been so arrogant, so certain of my own cleverness while he played a longer, smarter game. I want to go home, I said to the darkness. Derek's bitter laugh answered me. What home? The taxi driver kept glancing at me in the mirror as I sobbed in his back seat, mascara streaming down my cheeks, my cruise clothes wrinkled from being hastily shoved in my suitcase. I'd practiced my speech for 5 days. Michael, please, it meant nothing. I was lonely, you were never there, I made a terrible mistake, but I love you, I've always loved you, we can fix this. The words felt hollow even in my head, but I clung to them as we turned onto our street. My street. The one where I'd lived for 7 years, where I'd planted roses in the front garden and hosted barbecues for Michael's colleagues. Lady, you... Sure this is right? The driver asked. He'd stopped in front of my house, but there was a strange car in the driveway, a Subaru, with a baby seat visible through the back window. This is it, I replied, throwing money at him and stumbling out, my keys already in my hand. They didn't fit. I tried again, panic rising. The lock had been changed. The door opened from inside. A young woman stood there, maybe 25, holding a toddler on her hip. Can I help you? She asked. This is my house, I said desperately. I live here. I'm Rachel Collins. The woman's face shifted from confusion to something like pity. We bought this house last week, she explained gently. The previous owners said it was a quick sale. They were relocating for work. I'm sorry. But last week? I asked, my legs giving out. I sank onto the porch steps I'd helped Michael repair 2 summers ago. But I was here last week. Thursday, the woman replied softly. We closed Thursday. The sellers had already moved out, left it staged and everything. Are you okay? Should I call someone? Who would she call? My husband who'd orchestrated this? My parents who wouldn't speak to me? I stood on shaking legs. No, I answered. I'm sorry. I'm confused. The woman watched me leave with the expression of someone witnessing a car accident. I walked to the end of the driveway before realizing I had nowhere to go. My car, our cars, were gone. My credit cards were dead. My phone had been shut off the moment the cruise ended. Rachel Collins? A voice called out. A courier stood by. A van, holding an envelope. I nodded numbly and signed for it. Inside was a single key, a storage unit, and a letter in Michael's precise handwriting. Rachel, by now you understand the extent of your situation. I've left your personal belongings, clothes, jewelry, items of sentimental value, in the storage unit. The rent is paid through the month. Your car has been sold, as was mine. The house, as you've discovered, has new owners. I know everything, every lunch, every hotel meeting, every lie you told me while I was building our future. Derek's wife Sharon and I have spent 6 weeks documenting your affair. We have photographs, credit card records, hotel security footage, and most damningly, the recording Derek's wife made of your conversation at the Marriott bar where you laughed. About how oblivious we were. Did you know Derek was married for 23 years? That Sharon put him through law school? That she raised their children alone while he built his practice? I doubt he mentioned that during your romantic afternoons. The cruise was Sharon's idea. She thought you should be forced to see each other, without the excitement of secrecy, to understand what you'd traded your marriages for. I simply wanted you gone while we handled the legal necessities. Your lawyer, yes, you'll need one, can reach me through my attorney. Don't attempt to contact me directly. Don't come to my office. Don't reach out to my family. That part of your life is over. I loved you completely. You taught me that wasn't enough. Michael P.S. Sharon wanted me to tell you that she and I aren't together, in case you were constructing some romantic narrative to justify your choices. We're simply two people who were betrayed by the people we trusted most, who worked together to reclaim our lives. She's moving to California with the children. I'm transferring to our London office. You and Derek can have each other if that's still what you want. Somehow I doubt it is. The storage unit was in a complex 20 miles away. I used my last cash for an Uber, finding boxes of my things stacked neatly, clinically. My clothes, my grandmother's china, photo albums, the detritus of a life I'd destroyed. No furniture, nothing of value, just the personal items a stranger might donate to charity. On top was another envelope, this one from Sharon. Inside was a photo from the ship's photographer, Derek and I at dinner the first night, looking miserable and trapped. She'd written on the back, "You wanted him so badly. How did that work out?" I sat among the boxes and finally understood. We hadn't been clever or careful. We'd been pathetic and obvious, playing out the most common betrayal in the most predictable way. Michael and Sharon had seen everything, planned everything, and executed justice. They'd won before the game even started. 6 months later, I stocked shelves at Target from midnight to 8 a.m., living in my childhood bedroom while my parents remind me daily of my failures through their silence and disappointed looks. The divorce was finalized last month. I got nothing except debt from the credit card I'd used for hotels and lingerie. Michael's lawyer was better, his documentation complete, his strategy flawless. Derek texts sometimes, usually after his third bourbon, messages full of rage and blame and occasionally pathetic attempts at rekindling something that was never real. He lost his practice, his reputation, most of his assets. Last I heard, he was working contract review for a legal temp agency, living in a studio apartment in Queens. We destroyed everything for Tuesday and Thursday afternoons that seemed like someone else's life now. I know now what I couldn't see then. Michael wasn't weak or oblivious. He was patient, strategic, and when pushed, ruthlessly efficient. The quiet man who worked late wasn't ignoring me. He was building something solid while I was constructing castles out of lies and motel room keys. His love had been conditional on respect, on trust, on the vows we'd made. Once I broke those, he removed me from his life. Sharon was the same. Not the bitter wife Derek painted, but a woman who'd supported him for decades, only to be repaid with betrayal. Together, she and Michael had orchestrated perfect justice, not revenge, but consequence delivered with mathematical precision. Sometimes I walk past jewelry stores and see couples picking out rings, their faces bright with possibility. I want to warn them that love isn't enough, that marriage is a contract that requires both parties to honor it. But they wouldn't listen. I wouldn't have listened. The perfect trap wasn't the cruise. It wasn't the coordination between Michael and Sharon or the systematic dismantling of our lives. The perfect trap was my own arrogance, my belief that I deserved more while giving less, my certainty that I was too clever to be caught. I thought I was writing my own story. Turns out, I was just another cautionary tale, another cheating spouse, who learned too late that when you gamble with someone else's heart, the house always wins. Michael was right. He loved me completely. It wasn't enough, because I wasn't enough. I see that now. Stocking shelves at 3 a.m., remembering the woman, who thought she deserved more, and became someone who deserved nothing at all. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.